Why don't we just sort of an easy kind of softball question to get us started, but I think it would help sort of lay the foundation. If you just give us a little bit of background, tell us about how you came to be involved in this project. Were you always going to direct it? Tell me about some of the early conversations that you had that led you into this project.
Well, I had a great experience with Chris Hemsworth on Rush, where he had won that role with an audition that he actually made himself in a hotel room from location somewhere, wherever he was working, and sent in. And Peter Morgan, who wrote Rush, and who had also written Frost Nixon, very discerning, critical guy, you know, and great eye about casting. He and I looked at each other and just felt like, well, he had everything it took to bring that character to life. And I was very impressed with him. Of course, there's Thor and Snow White and these high-profile fantasy projects that he's been in that are so popular. But I found him to be a really creatively ambitious young actor, delving into the James Hunt character, identifying ways to give the character even more complexity, and I really enjoyed working with him. Fantastic attitude, work ethic, and everything. Then he brought me this project. So this is something that I've had my eye on for a while, and in fact I recognized that it was a script that had been around for a long time. I had never read it, but I took a look at it, and I thought it was fascinating, very challenging. You know, the water, the whale. I mean, you know, there's a lot of meat on that bone. But I wasn't sure. Then I found out it was based on real events, and I had no idea that you know, the novel Moby Dick was inspired by a real event where a whale of that scope, that scale, that intensity, ferocity had sunk a ship. And then I started to delve into the real story, read Nat Philbrick's book, which is fantastic, and it fulfilled a lot of things that I was really interested in doing, and had always been. I once tried to make a movie about the Greenpeace ship, Rainbow Warrior, and this real-life adventure that it had been involved in the 70s, and I couldn't get that movie off the ground. Then I developed and prepped Jack London's Seawolf, and that was a movie that ultimately wasn't really viable. I wasn't able to cast it in the way that I believed we needed to. Well, here was an amazing story that had everything I was interested in: the drama of the sea, the interesting ways that to test characters out there, plus this mythic component, and fantastic acting opportunities, which is something that I'm always looking for. And I also knew that Chris was born to play Owen Chase. When you read about who the real Owen Chase was, what he looked like, the way he carried himself, and so forth.
So you mentioned not only being intrigued by it, but seeing some inherent challenges. What were some of those inherent challenges in the material? And tell us a bit about how you overcame them.
Well, I mean, as I begin to promote the movie and really think about it, it's come to me that that this is really the most challenging and complicated movie that I've ever made, given the array of challenges. That, you know, first there's the logistics of shooting something in the water, and with this amount of action. And so some of it's in a tank, some of it's out in the ocean. For budgetary reasons, we had to shoot as much as we could at sea. That's daunting. I had some experience with that with Splash, quite a bit in Cocoon actually. So I had some favorable experiences going for me. Then there's the question of the CGI whale, and something I had no experience with, but I had seen Life of Pi recently, and when I went to the VFX supervisor who had done Rush, Jody Johnson, who had created so much photo-real CGI enhancement in that movie, which is about Formula One racers, where we had a lot of real cars, but he was able to put CGI cars alongside the real cars, and you really couldn't tell the difference. He said, well, you know, about Life of Pi, he said, well, that's the technology from 2 years ago. I promise you we can deliver this. And so I took that leap of faith. And then there was the fact that, you know, it was a dense story. I felt like the ambition of it and the density of it was a real plus. People liked that. I mean, look at the TV shows that we all follow. You know, they're complicated sets of characters. There are moral dilemmas and complexities. And I thought this story had a kind of modern thematic element blended with this big scale classic adventure action story. So, you know, the challenges ultimately are what drew me to it. I just acknowledged that, you know, it was going to be a lot of work, and there was a lot to sort out.
In a moment, we're going to watch a clip, but before we do, and this is our little signal to the booth, we're going to watch a clip that features Chris at a kind of an early meal with a few of the other folks. But I think maybe a way to sort of introduce the story and introduce a little bit about the film. Maybe tell us a bit more about Chris's character, and it's going to come out a little bit in the scene we're going to watch. This is set up.
Well, Chris is playing the first mate, Owen Chase, as you see in Philbert's book. If you haven't read it, it's great, by the way. What a great piece of history. He's a great writer of history. Owen Chase was the first mate who was very, very experienced and really believed he should be captain. And Pollard was from a famous whaling family, kind of a whaling aristocracy, and he was given the captaincy ahead of Owen Chase. But they paid Owen Chase well, and he said, you know, basically you need to support this work here, and swallow your pride, and you know, and do what it takes to help him have a successful voyage. And Chase was always a bit of an outsider because he wasn't born on Nantucket, and so there was always that tension and that feeling that there was, you know, that there was somehow a little prejudice against him and his background.
Great setup. Ron and his friends at Warner Brothers, our friends at Warner Brothers, have sent over 3 clips that we're going to watch. So let's take a look at the